Hello everyone, I am Dr. Payal Saha and today I am going to discuss an introduction to sequential circuits. So far we have studied combinational circuits. The combinational circuit consists of logic gates where the outputs at any instant of time are determined only by the present combination of inputs. Here the inputs given are A to N and the outputs are labeled as A dash, B dash and so on till M. So, M outputs are dependent only on the present values of N inputs. The main features of combinational circuits are, in this, the output depends only upon the present input. Next, these circuits do not have any memory element. So, operation speed is fast. There is no feedback between the input and the output. It is time independent, elementary building blocks being logic gates, and it is easy to use and handle. On the other hand, sequential circuits are those which are dependent on clock cycles and depends on present as well as past inputs to generate any output. That means in the sequential circuit, the outputs depend upon the inputs as well as the previous outputs. The diagram shows the inputs being given to the combinational logic circuit whose second input is coming from some memory element. The memory element is basically receiving the present output at its input running via some clock cycles. So, the previous output and the current input is giving me the present output. The features of sequential circuits are, in this, the output depends upon the present as well as the past input. These circuits have memory element. This is time dependent. There exists a feedback path between the input and the output, making the speed of operation slow. The elementary building blocks over here are flip-flops. As sequential circuits are clock dependent, that is why they require triggering, and because of that, these circuits are not easy to use and handle. Memory element is a device used in sequential circuits that can remember a value for a certain period of time or change value based on the input instruction. Examples of memory elements are latches and flip-flops. A latch is a circuit element that alters the output based on the current input, previous input and previous output, whereas the flip-flops are built from latches and includes an additional clock signal apart from the inputs which are used in latches. Let us differentiate between the two memory elements, that is latch and flip-flops. Latches are built from logic gates to form sequential circuits. It never bothers about clock or timely input. But in case of flip-flops, they are built from latches with an additional clock signal to form sequential circuits. The timely input is given much importance in flip-flops and the output gets changed from time to time. Next point of difference is, in latches, the inputs are continuously checked and the output is altered according to the input. There is no worry about the time duration while computing the output. Whereas in flip-flops, the timely output matters the most. With flip-flops, the inputs are checked continuously, but the outputs get changed only based on the clock signal. The next point of difference, based on the pulse duration, the latches can send or receive data. So we can transmit as long as the input switch is on. So the sensitivity here is with respect to the input pulse duration. Whereas in flip-flops, it is with respect to the change in the clock signal. So flip-flops never alter the output until it detects a change in the input clock signal. Therefore, latches work based on the enable input functions, but flip-flop work based on clock signals. The next point of difference is how they are triggered. In latches, the binary inputs, that is 0 or 1, play an important role in triggering the outputs. They can be described as level triggered, as they react to the level 0 or level 1. Whereas in flip-flops, they can be best described as edge triggered, as they respond to the changes in the clock signal from high to low or low to high. Let us now classify latches into its types. The first one is called as cross-coupled inverters, which is the basic latch. From there, we come to the second one, that is SR latch. Now SR latch further can be divided into two types. One which is made from the NOR gates and the second one which is constructed with NAND gates. And the third type of latch that we are going to discuss here is the D latch. The first latch, that is a cross-coupled inverter, consists of two inverters connected in such a way that the output of one goes as input to the next. So, if we assume that the upper inverter has an output of 0, the lower inverter will have an output of 1, or vice versa, as shown in the second configuration. So, we see that the two configurations can have either a 0 output or a 1 output, with the second output being complement of the first output. We conclude that the system has got two stable states, either 0 or 1. So, a stable value 0 or 1 can be stored at the inverter outputs. But it is not possible for any user to give any input to this system. The second type of latch is the SR latch or the set reset latch. The SR latch is a circuit with two cross-coupled NOR gates or two cross-coupled NAND gates. The symbol for the SR latch is shown here. It has two inputs labeled S for set and R for reset. There are two outputs Q and Q bar. When Q is high, the latch is in set condition. When Q is low, the latch is in reset condition. The SR latch made from cross-coupled NOR gates is also referred to as SR latch with active high input. The diagram shows the construction of the SR latch with cross-coupled NOR gates. The second input of the NOR gates are referred to as R for reset and S for set. The outputs of the NOR gates are called as Q and Q bar. The operation of this SR latch can be best understood with the help of its truth table. The truth table shows the two inputs S and R on the left hand side with its four combinations and the output Q and Q bar on the right hand side. For the first input combination, that is S1 R0, the output is 1 0. Since Q is high, therefore we call it as the set condition. For the second input combination, that is 0 1, the output is 0 and 1 and hence we call it as reset condition. For the third input combination, that is 0 0, the output can either be 0 1 or 1 0. That is same as the previous output. As the previous output is retained as the next output condition, hence we call it as stable. That is why usually for SR latch the input condition is kept at S0 R0. The fourth input combination, that is 1 1, we get output of both NOR gates as 0 0, which is usually forbidden for any latch, and hence S equals to 1 and R equals to 1 input generates unpredictable results for SR latch. The SR latch made from NAND gates are also referred to as the SR latch with active low input. The diagram shows the SR latch having two inputs S and R and the outputs are Q and Q bar. Sometimes it is also referred to as the S-R- latch. The operation can be best understood with the help of the truth table with two inputs SR with all the four combinations and two outputs Q and Q bar. For the first input combination, that is 0 1, the output is obtained as 0 1. Since Q is 0, therefore we call it as reset condition. For second input combination 1 0, the output is obtained as 1 0. Since Q is high, therefore we also call it as set condition. For the next input combination, that is 1 1, the output is obtained as either 0 1 or 1 0, which is nothing but the previous stored output, and hence we call it as the store condition. Therefore, usually we keep S equals to 1 and R equals to 1 in the SR latch with NAND gates. Now, the last input combination, that is 0 0, generates a 1 1 at the output of both NAND gates, and hence we call it as forbidden condition. Therefore, S equals to 0 and R equals to 0 input generates unpredictable results in case of SR latch with NAND gates. We modify the basic SR latch by providing an additional control input that determines when the state of the latch can be changed. So, in the given figure, it shows the basic SR latch whose inputs are shown as S and R with two additional NOR gates wherein we provide the external input signals S dashed and R dashed. The control input is denoted as C dashed. Now, the latch is level sensitive in regards to C, which means that it stores data only if C dashed equals to 0. In short, the latch operation is enabled by C. The external inputs are given via S dashed and R dashed. So, we say that the input sampling is enabled by the extra NOR gates. The outputs obtained finally are denoted as Q and Q dashed. Those outputs will change only when C is low. That means we are getting at the output of the latch set condition, reset condition or otherwise hold condition only when C is 0. Now we see the modified NAND SR latch with control input. The diagram for the same shows on the right hand side the same basic NAND SR latch. That basic SR latch is indicated by this red rectangle. To this basic latch we have provided an additional stage of NAND gates which are indicated by these red circles. The external inputs S and R are given to these NAND gates, and also the control input denoted by C is given to this NAND stage. So when C equals to 0, the output of both these NAND gates equals to 1. Therefore, the basic NAND latch functions as having 1 1 input, which makes no change in its output as indicated by the first row of the function table. That is, when C equals to 0, whatever may be SR inputs, there is no change in the output Q. So we conclude that if C equals to 0, all latch state changes are disabled. Only when C equals to 1, the inputs S and R are gated to the basic NAND latch, and the basic NAND latch functions as a normal one. Therefore, we conclude that when C equals to 1, the control signal enables data change in the NAND SR latch. Now we go to the third type of latch, that is the D latch. The D latch is an extended version of the modified NAND SR latch with control input. The diagram shows the SR latch which we had studied earlier. Here X and Y are the two external inputs and C is the control input signal. Q and Q bar on the right hand side of the function table indicates the output. So with XY equals to 0 and control signal equal to 1, the outputs are Q0 and Q0 bar, where Q0 indicates the previously stored output value. So this is giving me the store condition. Next, with X equals to 0, Y equals to 1, we get Q equals to 0 and Q bar equals to 1, which is the reset condition. With X equals to 1 and Y 0, we get the set condition where Q equals to 1 and Q bar equals to 0. With both input equal to 1, we have Q and Q bar both trying to attain 1, which is basically disallowed. All these conditions are derived from C equals to 1. With C equals to 0, whatever may be X and Y values, we have Q and Q bar equals to Q0 and Q0 bar, that is giving me the stored condition or the latch disabled condition. One way to come out of the problem of this SR NAND latch with both inputs equal to 1, which is disallowed, is to make sure that both S and R inputs are never equal to 1. This is done in the D latch by connecting an inverter between X and Y. That single input is called as D, which stands for delay. Now we see the function table for the D latch. D is the external input signal, C is the control input, and Q and Q bar are the output of this D latch. The inputs to this function table are basically derived from the condition X equals to 0 and Y equals to 1, which is the reset condition showing output Q equals to 0. The next input condition is derived from the next row in the previous function table, that is X equals to 1 and Y equals to 0, which is the set condition. Both these outputs are obtained with C equals to 1. Now with C equals to 0, whatever may be the value of X and Y, in this case D, we have the storage condition, that is Q equals to 0 and Q bar equals to Q0 bar. So what we conclude is, whatever is the value of D, that we get at the output Q. The same D latch here is shown in the form of a box. The input D here is referred to as X. The control input C is also called as E. The output Q is referred to as Z. We show the control input in the form of a waveform. The arrow shows the part where E is high. The input X is also given in the form of a periodic input signal. The latches function on the level of the clock, that is E is high. From the output waveform, we see that Z is changing only when E is high. In other words, if E is high, Z will follow X. So we conclude that the D latch stores data indefinitely regardless of the input D values if C or E equals to 0. Therefore, the D latch forms the basic storage element in computers. Let us summarize the symbols for the latches that we have seen earlier. The first symbol is that for the standard SR latch, which is based on NOR gates. The next one is the S-R- latch, which is based on NAND gates. And the third one is the D latch, which can be based on either NAND gates or NOR gates. These D latches are sometimes also referred to as transparent latches. Till now, we have seen the operation of different types of latches. The question arises then, why we require flip-flops? Latches basically respond to the trigger levels on the control inputs. For example, if the control input E equals to 1, the input gets reflected at the output. Here, we are considering the waveform for the control signal and we have identified the positive levels of that control input signal. So, it becomes very difficult for us to precisely time when to store the data with latches. Flip-flops, on the other hand, store data on either the rising or falling trigger edge. The first waveform here shows all the positive edges, and similarly the second waveforms are shown with negative edges identified. Flip-flops will store the data either on the rising or the falling trigger edge. So it is very easy to precisely time when to store the data using flip-flops. For example, when the control input transitions from 0 to 1, the data input appears at the output for a positive edge response. That is why we prefer flip-flops as compared to latches, because data remains stable in the flip-flop. Let us now consider the D flip-flop. Here we are seeing the symbol for positive edge triggered D flip-flop and the function table is shown on the right. As long as the clock signal is at 0 or 1 level, whatever may be the D input, the output is same as before, indicated by the third row in the function table. When we have positive edges at the clock, then the D input is appearing at the output side. So we can conclude that D gets latched to Q on the rising edge of the clock. It stores a value on the positive edge of C. Input changes happening at other times have no effect on the output. Let us consider the timing waveforms for the D flip-flop. As shown in the diagram, this is a positive edge triggered flip-flop. So we are giving the D input and we are identifying the clock edges also. As it is positive edge triggered, we are identifying the low to high transitions of the clock. Now at the first positive edge, the input signal D is at level 0. The output will capture the input. So the output after the first positive edge becomes 0. Now when we go to the second positive edge of the clock, at that time the input signal is at level 1. So the transition of the output now is from 0 to 1. Similarly, for all the other positive edges, the output will go on capturing the input. D flip-flops are of two types, positive edge triggered and negative edge triggered. So we can say that flip-flops can be triggered on positive or negative clock edges. The first symbol is that of a positive edge triggered D flip-flop, which we have seen earlier also. This is basically triggered by the low to high going edge of the clock pulse. The second type of D flip-flop is that of negative edge triggered, wherein the bubble before the clock input C indicates that this is a negative edge triggered D flip-flop, which is basically triggered by the high to low going edge of the clock pulse. The second type of flip-flop is a positive edge triggered JK flip-flop. The diagram is shown on the left hand side and the graphic symbol is there on the right hand side. The diagram shows that JK flip-flop is made from a D flip-flop with the addition of some AND and OR logic. The two inputs are reflected as J and K and the output is Q and its complement Q bar. When both J and K inputs are equal to 0, 0, the output Q becomes Q0, which is same as the previous output, and Q bar remains as Q0 bar. When J equals to 0, K equals to 1, the output becomes Q equals to 0 and Q bar equals to 1, that is the reset condition. Next, when input J is equal to 1 and K equals to 0, the output Q becomes 1 and Q bar becomes 0, which is the set condition. And when both J and K are equal to 1, the output toggles. So Q becomes equal to Q0 bar. In summary, we can say that J input sets the flip-flop, the K input resets the flip-flop, and both J and K input equal to 1 toggles the output. The next type of flip-flop is a positive edge-triggered T flip-flop, which is made from a JK flip-flop by shorting both the inputs and labeling it as T. On the right hand side, we see the graphic symbol for the same T flip-flop. Considering its functionality, when T equals to 0, we see that the output retains its previous value. Similarly, when T equals to 1, the output toggles or inverts. So, we can summarize: with T equals to 0, keep the current output as it is, and when T equals to 1, invert the current output. Now we consider flip-flops with asynchronous or direct inputs. Previously, the JK inputs that we have given are referred to as synchronous inputs because the effects of these inputs on the output are synchronized with respect to the clock signal. Now, the diagram here shows two additional inputs, which are preset bar and clear bar, that we apply to the normal JK flip-flop. When this preset bar and clear bar inputs are equal to 1, it assumes a normal JK flip-flop operation. But when preset bar is set to 0, then Q is always high without regard to the clock input signal. Similarly, when clear equals to 0, Q is always equal to 0 regardless of the clock input. Both preset bar and clear bar zeros combination are not used. So we conclude that asynchronous inputs operate independently of the synchronous inputs and the clock, and sets the flip-flop output to 1 or 0 at any point of time without regarding the clock input signal. So we summarize: flip-flops are powerful storage elements which can be constructed from latches with few additional logic gates. D flip-flop is the simplest and most widely used. Asynchronous inputs preset and clear allow for presetting or clearing the flip-flop. Multiple flip-flops combined together allows us to store data, and that forms the basis of computer memory. We can combine the storage and the logic to make a computation circuit. Thank you everyone for patient listening.